That's exactly what I meant. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, doing well, thanks.
Are you with press or?
It's not on the website.
Oh, awesome. Do you want to see I'm so excited you came.
Sorry about my phone too.
How are you there?
Soundtrack.
Yeah.
Ropes.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Did you meet the chancellor? Okay, Nicole.
It's my dream. So I hope.
For that paper.
Maybe we can rotate it based on what's easier.
I bet a lot of folks, if they're able to, stay home for the first part of the
Yeah, I think I can read. Yeah.
My quarters here. Good to see everybody. My best days are the ones that start off with playing with children. And that's exactly what I had the privilege to do here at Broome Community College at their childcare center, which is just an extraordinary place. You can sense the love and the sense of responsibility that these individuals who work here every single day to take care of children, how seriously they take this. And I want to thank some of my partners here in our operations. We have our, I'm missing a card here. You may have taken my card.
It's
Okay.
under your
Okay.
binder.
Oh, okay. You're right. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Our county executive, Jason Gardner, I want to thank him for joining us and being here every time I come to Broome County and make sure that we're focused on issues that are important to the county. Dr. Tony Hawkins, the president of Broome Community College, and very proud of how the enrollment has gone up dramatically since we instituted the SUNY Reconnect, which is an opportunity for adults 25 years and older in specialized fields like education and healthcare, and a whole series of, can come back to community college for free and covering all the costs. And so the numbers are, up about 16% from fall and maybe up 20% for the spring.
That's correct.
So we're doing well, right?
doing great.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
I just want to confirm it's working. We're excited
working.
about this as well. And our extraordinary Chancellor, John King, who is just the brainchild of so many of these initiatives that help high school students have a better chance of getting financial aid and coming to college and opportunities for them and scholarships, investing in our infrastructure at all of our SUNY campuses, but also cares deeply about allowing people the opportunity to get that education, to lift themselves out of their circumstances. And their SUNY Reconnect and our investments in the child care facilities are an important part of that. And Nicole McMillan, the director of this center, is also to some we really are grateful for all the work you do here. As I mentioned, I met some of the kids here. I met some of their parents, and the parents are pursuing a SUNY education. So in speaking to them, they're just so grateful not just to have the financial support to cover the cost of tuition, but when they're trying to better themselves and get more of an opportunity and have a better job with a better paycheck to take care of a child, but they spend so much of that paycheck on that child, when they're able to bring them here to a place like this, literally where they're going to school, it makes all the difference in the world and is really life-changing is what I'm hearing. So, and they can check in on their kids. It's something I know is important as a mom, New York's first mom governor, knowing that, you're consumed every day, even if you're working, thinking about the well-being of your child. And if you can check in on them, this is just a great opportunity for them to do both their jobs, be a full-time student, but also a full-time parent. So I know this personally because I've had to give up a career that I loved because I could not find childcare that was affordable when my babies were starting out, and now those babies are having their own babies since it's a long time ago, but they're struggling with childcare as well. So I know this is a huge driver of cost for their families. And also, we want to talk about something that we're leaning hard into, and I'm really proud of this, talking about on a path for fully universal childcare across the entire state of New York. We made a major announcement with the mayor of New York City a few weeks ago, really into this session. But recognizing that New York City and the rest of the state are in different places, New York City started quite a bit earlier to have a 4-year program and a 3-year program. We have some of many of our communities covered in New York, but I want to make sure we fully get there. But you think about what it costs to have childcare. Here in Broome County, the median income is about $61,000 a year, one of the lower incomes across our state. And the cost of childcare is upwards of $14,000. So if you have to take care of a child or even 2 children at that cost, look what you're subtracting out of your income right off the bat. And it's impossible for families. And, that cost is, twice the cost of a SUNY tuition. So it's just a huge driver of expense and creates the affordability challenge for so many of our families. So that's why I know that we needed to make investments in childcare here in New York, over $8 billion since I've been governor invested in childcare, and focusing $6.5 billion on childcare subsidies to help parents have what they need to be able to make the payments to cover their childcare. In race, we can do that, but also we can provide it, but also you have to have facilities. So places like this take money to build and to develop and take time. So last year in our budget, we announced over $100 million to open hundreds of new childcare centers. So we really did lay the foundation, working on, the facilities, the workforce that's required, and now we need to be able to expand it to more and more families. So I wanted to, as I talk about upstate, I want to do things in a way where we can study the impacts and look at 3 specific counties that have been identified, and I'm here and proud to announce, in cooperation with our county executive, Broome County is one of the 3 pilots for this initiative all across upstate New York. And so Broome County is on the verge of opening the largest child care center this fall. It's going to be amazing. And to continue furthering these efforts, we are committed at the state level to $20 million for the county to scale up and find out ways we can deal with babies that are infants all the way up to 3-year-olds and cover that gap for families that exist, because we'll work on getting the 4-year-old program available to every child within the next 2 years. That should be done. Also focusing on 3-year-old programs, but it says those infants, the little toddlers and the 1 and 2-year-olds that are the ones that are hard to place. So we want to have a pilot for a community-wide network of daycares that'll provide daycare not just during the school year, but year-round, and also make it affordable for families. And also double down on the proven success of the childcare subsidies. $1.2 billion already additional for childcare subsidies. And as I mentioned, we'll follow through on our promise of universal 4-year-old program. So in the next 2 years, every parent will know that there's a seat guaranteed for their 4-year-old to be able to have the education they need, the skills and training to be able to step into kindergarten ready to learn. So we're going to keep giving relief to families, knowing of their struggles. We have the expansion of the child care tax credit. When I first became governor, for families with a child under the age of 4, there was no tax credit. There was no financial assistance. So we went from $330 the next year, and I said, let's just triple it. Let's get it up to $1,000. And that's, I want to get the word out that you can deduct that you can take that credit on this year's taxes for your children under the age of 4. We also have a baby benefit, $1,800 for parents receiving public assistance to help them with those initial costs, which are always so high when your family is just starting out, as well as an investment of $9 million to help with diapers and other supplies that families need. So my objective is to make it possible for people to get an education at a great institution like SUNY Broome, know that their children are well taken care of, find other ways to put more money back in their pockets. We're taking on the high cost of car insurance. Utilities, I know, is hugely important here in Broome County in the southern tier. As this bitter cold winter is commanding more use, which is driving up costs. And we're still in the depths of that deep freeze, and it's going to take some more time to get out of it. But again, expanding the SUNY Reconnect program is something I feel very excited about. So bottom line is this. We're never going to stop fighting for the families, some little ones I can hear in the distance who are screaming a little bit, but that shows that they're active, they're alive, they're engaged. And so I'm delighted to be here to make this major announcement for Broome County that will be working closely to be part of a pilot to unveil a statewide program to make sure that every child, every family will have access to affordable child care. With that, we are happy to take any questions.
Yep, we're going to start with on-topic questions while we have our friends from the Child Care Center and the education system here. Anybody have on-topic questions?
Do you have any more details to share about this child care center in Broome County, location, timeline, things like that, for people who would maybe like to use it?
The one that's coming, the large one?
The one that's coming.
I'm going to let the county executive, since he's been a driver of this.
Yeah, just to give you a quick history, I remember having a conversation with the governor a few years ago, and she said, you have these are great ideas about economic development projects, but you also always need, whenever you talk about creating jobs, you need to think about daycare, childcare. You need to think about that. So with that in mind, we were able to receive full state funding to build out a daycare specifically for Broome County that's going to be run by Broome County. And we are literally, you're making the news as we go. We're just about ready to do a groundbreaking in a month, but construction's already begun at the Oakdale Commons, the new redeveloped Oakdale Commons. But there will be 200 slots there. You were talking about concentrating on the infant to 3. Half of those slots will be infant to 3, and we thank the state so much for providing the funding. We'd never be able to get it up and running, and with the additional funding, all the daycares are going to be able to get more and more kids into their centers, and we're including this one right here, and we're really happy to see that.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, County Executive. So it's happening. Our investments are starting to pay off and be able to take care of over 200 children, additional children here in Broome County, just in a matter of months. So
Yep, you bet. Yeah, how did you select the 3 counties for the pilot?
I have confidence in the leadership of the 3 counties. I've worked very closely with Jason Gardner, and I want to to, empower him to use this really as an incubator, knowing that he has been so vested in childcare, the work that he did with state support, but he is making it happen, this reuse of an abandoned mall to convert it into a place that is going to be lively with the voices of over 200 children. So knowing of his commitment and my confidence in his leadership led me to this place.
Any other on-topic questions, guys?
What are you going to be looking for? You mentioned wanting to be able to measure the impacts in these 3 counties. How do you plan on measuring that impact, and what will the state be looking for?
It's $20 million for each of these counties as a pilot, but how far that money goes is the first question. They have the relationships and they'll work on the contracts with the individual providers. They already do. But how much does that, when we're trying to scale up after this initial phase, how much more will be needed based on what they're able to accomplish, how many families are served, how many more children have access to high quality childcare that otherwise wouldn't have.
And you mentioned, I'm sorry. I don't know if someone else has a question.
Last one, go ahead.
Just, you mentioned childcare subsidies and expanding that.
Mhm.
Some counties, for example, nearby Shenango County, have exhausted their funds already.
Mhm.
Is the state working directly, specifically with those counties to replenish those subsidy funds? What does that look like?
We've invested $6.5 billion, and what this does is for eligible families, it caps their cost at $15 a week, which is quite extraordinary. But we also have to make sure as we're, and we'll work on that. We know that there's a shortage. We understand that. But also, you can't make a promise of a seat if the seat is not there. So the subsidies are generous, but if we don't have enough capacity, we have to build out the capacity like the county executives talking about in all of our counties. And that's something we urge also the local business communities to focus on. I mean, if you have, a large scale facility, you're building a new one, like with Micron, as part of the deal, they have to build a childcare center. And that was under construction even before we did the groundbreaking for the huge centers that we've worked on over the next 20 years. So childcare is critically important. So I think the businesses here, and there are some very large employers here in the southern tier, should focus on that. Even in a downtown area, there can be small businesses that create a consortium that for their downtown workers that they provide, they all get together and chip in on a location and provide. So the only reason you need childcare is you can go to a job. So the local businesses and the economy benefits when there's more people working. So we're also reframing this, that it's not just government that's taking care of this. The business community has ownership as well, and we have tax incentives for them to do just this.
Great,
All right,
very
thanks.
nice. These are friends from the Child Care Center. Everyone's gonna go right down the hall that way. and then
All
we'll
right.
have time for a couple on-topic questions.
All right. Thanks, Nicole. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thanks, Jens. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mr. President.
I like this coat. Oh, thanks. Very nice.
Close the door. I want to take this moment to address an unfolding, can I start? Because I was distracted by a little one. I'd like to take a moment to address a situation that we've become aware of at Gore Mountain. As we speak, there are 67 individuals who right now are in gondolas. The power is off. They need to be rescued. And we have our ORDA teams and our DEC teams who are specifically trained year-round in how to conduct these rescues. But if people are in these gondolas, and I wanted to say, first of all, they're enclosed, which is important because, it's very cold. Good news is these individuals are obviously dressed for the cold in their ski gear, but this is a situation we're taking very seriously, and the rescue teams are on the ground trying to restore the power, but also to extract people from this frightening situation. So we're going to be watching this very closely, but letting New Yorkers know that this is going on at Gore Mountain as we speak.
We'll take a couple off-topic questions.
I'm going to close the door.
Governor, off that, are any state resources being deployed to assist with this?
No, these are our state employees. ORDA is the Olympic facility, and they are well trained in this. We have training all the time because it's dangerous work to, with ropes and scale these. I mean, these are very high up in the air, and there's people inside who may be very anxious or panicked, and to get them brought safely to ground takes real skill and experience. And so I have confidence in my team, also the DEC team. So the two of them are the ones that are taking lead on this crisis right now.
Yep, go ahead. Oh, no, you had a question, right?
I did, but
Yeah.
mine was from the previous press conference that we just had. Not,
That's
okay.
That's,
Go ahead, you
That's
can
all.
ask.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as like the pilot program, the funding for Boone County, is that going to go to already existing daycares, or is it also going to open up?
The county executive will make that decision. I think they're going to put out RFPs, so existing ones can certainly apply, but also how do we expand that even further with those resources?
Governor, you mentioned the economic development that the train is going in New York. We hear these announcements out of Corning, multi-billion-dollar agreement going forward. Yesterday, Siemens announced a $65 million investment in the Painted Post facility. Can you talk a little bit about these big investments back in New York State by these companies?
No, we're hearing that IBM is looking to expand here again. So I'm excited about this. I've been laser focused on creating good paying private sector jobs. Since I've been governor, we've created over 1 million private sector jobs, which is quite extraordinary given that we were in the throes of a pandemic and there were a lot of layoffs and a lot of uncertainty. But these companies understand that this is a pro-business environment. I've worked hard we're not raising taxes. We're giving incentive to those who need them. We're providing support for the workers. We're creating a whole ecosystem of support for these major companies. And I do a lot of personal recruiting myself to let them know that I will be involved myself to make sure that their needs are met, because we know that a lot of these companies can go elsewhere. There's other states that are trying to recruit them. And those who have been here or those who are newly coming here, those who want to expand, we are full in on their support and supporting them, and because their success is also our success. It's good news happening here in the Southern Tier. Right.
Ryan,
You've been working with local law enforcement to try and limit current or prohibit future partnerships with ICE. Last night in Johnson City, a few just towns over, there was a resolution that was brought up to prohibit future partnerships with ICE. That resolution didn't even receive a second vote, so it was struck down very early on. What's that process been looking like at the state level, trying to work with these local law enforcement agencies?
Well, I only announced just last Friday that this is something I will introduce to the legislature. The process is we can introduce it or they can introduce it, and it has to be worked out, negotiated with the legislature, and then it would get passed. And so this would be a statewide policy that says that we want our local police, local cops focused on local crimes and not distracted with civil enforcement of ICE immigration cases, because here's the way I look at it. We have stretched resources for our law enforcement to protect their communities. They have to respond to emergencies. They have to be there for car accidents. They have to be there if there's any shootings or domestic violence or retail theft. Anything that comes up, we're counting on our local police. And to have them deputized and now distracted working with ICE on civil enforcement does not protect the public. They're not focused on what their primary responsibility that the taxpayers are paying their salaries for. ICE has plenty of resources. They are now a $85 billion agency, up from $6 billion just a short time ago. I'm trying to support our local police. And of course, our local law enforcement and our state police will continue to work when there's crimes involved with the immigrant community. Absolutely. We don't want them harming anybody. We always have been doing that. That will not change, despite what some people will say that'll make communities less safe. That is a falsity, and we should not let that get any traction, because it is exactly the opposite of what we're trying to do here. I want local cops doing their local jobs, not feeling a responsibility to do ICE's job. Federal government can take care of that themselves.
I just
Thank
want
you,
to
guys.
follow up on that. As far as the legislation or the press release that you put out referenced federal agencies using local detention centers for civil immigration enforcement to hold detainees. Some counties, like Broome County, for example, have agreements with ICE that allow them to hold detainees, but do not allow them to go out and assist ICE with making arrests. Do you sort of distinguish between these two? I mean, these sheriffs say that it provides income for the county jails. Does this, in your mind, sort of limit their ability to go out in the field and help ICE, or is it all?
No,
of the above?
they should not be helping ICE with civil enforcement. And also, our jails should be used for local criminals. They have the resources for their own detention centers. They have them in New York already. And if it's a resource issue for local law enforcement, our sheriffs, I will be happy to have that conversation as we enter our budget negotiations. I have long been a supporter of our sheriffs, and that's why the head of the New York State Sheriff's Association stood with me when I made this announcement. You know, it was a bipartisan group, and Republican district attorneys and others stood with me because they know that, especially when we see what's unfolding in other states like Minnesota, that what is also happening is that the trust that local law enforcement is trying to build, that is essential for them to do their jobs effectively and safely for them, the trust is being shattered because people are not distinguishing between different levels of law enforcement. They're living in fear, and they're being, ripped away from their homes and their communities and their places of worship. And this is really taking down people's confidence in their local officials as well, even though it's ICE doing it. So I want to restore that as well. I'll have conversations with our sheriffs and keep an open door to find out, what is involved here, how we can help them if it's financial. So we'll be doing that in the near future.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you in person.
You too. Thank you everyone for coming out. So we can all exit that door then, and then gotta pack up and get out.
I'm gonna let that group back in.
Okay.